Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind The Country Chic Cottage. Today we are going to talk about making sublimation planters. And I have 3 different varieties for you so you can pick and choose from these options. And you might want to watch this full video because one of these I'm not sure if I would totally recommend, but it is definitely possible to sublimate all 3 because I have all 3 sitting here. Now 2 of these are officially planters. They have a drain hole, they come with like a bamboo thing to put on them to catch drips. The other is technically a bowl. I think it's meant to be like a dog bowl. However, if you put rocks in it for drainage or certain types of plants, it would work fine for a planter. So that's this version here. However, all 3 of these, of course, you could put a plant in. So I wanted to include them all in this video. So first, let's take a look at the supplies we're going to use. The supplies you're going to need are as follows. So you will need your sublimation blanks, and we'll take a closer look at these in just a second. Heat resistant gloves, and I'm going to use a sublimation oven as my heat source. And then you'll need your sublimation print. Now this is sublimation ink printed on sublimation paper from a sublimation printer. I went ahead and resized the designs, and I do have the designs for free in the description below this video. I resized them to fit each of my blanks, and I'll show you how to apply these in a minute. Then because I'm using an oven, I'm going to use shrink wrap. Now I have 3 different sizes of shrink wrap to fit my 3 different sizes of blanks. The size of shrink wrap you'll need will depend on the size of blanks that you purchase. And then because I'm using the shrink wrap, I'm going to use a heat gun in order to shrink it up before I put it in the oven, a heat resistant mat, a lint roller, as well as heat resistant tape. So now let's take a closer look at these blanks before we sublimate them. The smallest blank is a little planter from Amazon. So it's a sublimation blank. It has a sublimation coating already applied. It does have a drainage hole, and it does come with a bamboo piece for your drainage. And then for these, I'm going to use the smallest version of my shrink wrap, which is this version, which is typically used for like a 20-ounce tumbler, but this does work inside of it. The next version is from JP Plus, and this is a larger planter, which I really like this size versus this size. And it does come again with a bamboo tray for drainage, and it does have a drainage hole in the bottom. Again, it does have a sublimation coating applied to the outside. For this one, I needed a slightly larger sublimation shrink sleeve, and I keep several sizes on hand and just picked one that roughly worked. And then the third version is from JP Plus, and it's actually just a ceramic bowl. I think it's intended to be a dog bowl, so no drainage holes. You could put rocks in the bottom and then dirt and then your plants. However, I do think it could make a planter. Again, it does have a sublimation coating applied. And for this one, I needed a 3rd size of the shrink wrap, and this one opens differently, so it opens long ways, and it's perfect for like large bowls and things. Now the shrink wrap does not have to be exactly the size, as long as the blank will fit inside. For instance, this version is way larger than my blank. However, it will still work. So you can have a larger piece as long as your blank fits inside. You can shrink it up to fit the blank itself. Each of these blanks is prepared in the exact same manner. So we're going to lint roll the area where we're going to add our sublimation print. Then you're just going to add the sublimation print. Now you'll notice this is mirrored, and you do mirror it when printing. And I made sure this was cut like roughly straight across the bottom and the top so I can use that to locate everything. And then you just want to locate it onto your blank. And then we'll just use some heat resistant tape to hold that into place. And I'm going to use 4 pieces of tape to hold it into place, and then it's ready for shrink wrap. So for this shrink wrap is a little long, so I can actually cut it in half and get 2 pieces out of each one of these. Then I'll just add the blank inside of the shrink wrap. Just work it over the outside and put that blank about midways inside of there. Then I'll just hold it with the heat resistant glove and shrink the shrink wrap into place. I like to use a heat gun and shrink it down before I actually put it into the sublimation oven. If your shrink wrap is too large for your blank, then just pull the blank to one side and start on the side that has the most hanging off. Sort of shrink that to it, adjust it, and make sure it shrinks around it. And then you can shrink the entire thing just like usual. So a larger piece of shrink wrap can fit a smaller blank. Then this is ready for your sublimation oven. Now you want to set the time and the temperature for the sublimation oven according to the time and temperature for whatever blank you are using. And each one may be different, so be sure to check where you purchase your sublimation blanks. Set the time and temperature on your sublimation oven and then allow it to preheat. Then add your blanks and start the time. This particular oven, when it comes to temperature, it will start the countdown. So here I'm adding the blanks, but it's not quite to temperature, and it will heat up. And you will notice that I'm putting multiple blanks inside this oven at one time. Once that time is up, remove the blanks from your oven and put on a heat-resistant mat. It is best to remove the shrink wrap when it is hot. I just find that it's way easier to remove the shrink wrap while everything is really, really hot. So I use heat-resistant gloves and remove the shrink wrap itself. You can wait for it to cool down a little bit to remove the sublimation print, but I try to remove that hot or warm as well. Here are a few results. So this is the one from Amazon. Now it's sublimated great, however, this one I had a really hard time getting that shrink wrap off of it. In fact, some of them I just gave up on. So I did all of these at 390 degrees for 15 minutes. This one I might do a lower time and temperature to see if I could get it to where the shrink wrap would come off easily. You might even do them one at a time so you can take that shrink wrap off as soon as you pull it out of the oven. Don't even wait a few minutes. This version from JP Plus sublimated great, and the shrink wrap came off much easier on this version. And then the ceramic bowl, it sublimated great, and the shrink wrap came off the best on this one. So while they all sublimated great, I might recommend the JP Plus versions over the Amazon version just because it's easier to get that shrink wrap off. So this Amazon version was definitely my least favorite. So first of all, it's very small. Second of all, like the tray is much bigger than the pot, so it's not exactly aesthetically pleasing to me. The tray is also not very deep, so it wouldn't catch many drips. And then the planner itself is an off-white color instead of a bright white, so that wasn't my favorite. And then of course the sublimation shrink wrap stuck the worst to this version. So it's definitely my least favorite of the three, so take that into account. And I also wanted you to take into account that these are very breakable. When you order something very breakable from Amazon and perhaps it arrives broken, then you might have a hard time getting a replacement. I know I've been there, done that. The version from JP Plus, I actually had a couple arrive broken, emailed them, and they immediately sent out replacements. So that was one benefit of going with some place like JP Plus. Not to mention that I liked the planners better. They're a very bright white color. They sublimated beautifully. I love the drip tray and how it's streamlined with the planter on this version. And I also had really good luck with removing the shrink wrap from both of these versions. So those are the versions I personally would recommend. However, if you want a less expensive version, you just want to give this a try, you have a super small plant, then this Amazon version might be the one for you. Now let's talk designs. So I have 6 free sublimation designs in the description below this video, and I was going for like a funny plant type vibe with my sublimation prints. However, you could put any sublimation print you wanted on these. You could do a full wrap. You could put photos. Whatever you would like to put on these sublimation blanks, you could put on them. So think outside the box with your planners and think about something that you want to put on them, whether it be the funny sayings that I'm giving you for free or some other photo or full wrap that maybe matches a tumbler or matches your home decor. Really think about the designs you want to put on these so you can make customized planners at home with this tutorial. Now, if you have any questions about anything we've covered today, drop down in the comment section, ask away. If you liked this video and it helped you, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.